again, children. I hope you enjoyed my story last week at the end of the rainbow. Do you remember what the moral was of the story? It was that friendship is a treasure. Fox and Badger went looking for treasure at the end of the rainbow, and what they didn't realise was that their friendship was the true treasure. My story today is also about friendship. It's about friendship and it's about travelling. I've got this beautiful shell and I was just wondering how far I would have to travel to find a shell like this. Which ocean would I have to travel to find a shell like this? My book today is by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. It's called The Snail and the Whale. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. Now they're two creatures that you wouldn't think of together. A humpback whale is the biggest mammal on the planet, and a tiny snail that might have a little shell like this, much smaller than the shell I showed you earlier. You wouldn't put those two together, would you? Let's find out. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The bottom of a snail is called its foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. These are the other snails in the flock who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." So that means she'll ask someone to take her somewhere. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Lift wanted around the world." This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." And there she is, hitching a lift onto his tail. This is the sea so wild and free that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far-off lands. I wonder where they are. Can you think where they are, children? All penguins. With fiery mountains and golden sands. I wonder where they could be here. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the caves beneath the waves where stripy fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam around the whale and the snail on his tail. Looks like I could find my shell in an ocean like that. It looks like it might fit there. This is a sky so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all, and she said to the whale, "I feel so small." And she is so small, isn't she? Look at her on the end of his tail. But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. So what's happened to the whale? The tide has slipped away, he's gone too close to the shore and he's now beached, which means he can't get back into the sea. He can't stand up because he doesn't have legs and there's no water for him to swim. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt hopeless and terribly small. What could she do to help him? She's so tiny. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from the play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot. A snail, a snail! The teacher turned pale. Look, say the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, save the whale. Children, what would you do? What would you do if you saw that on your whiteboard? What would you do? Do you think you'd get up and help? Let's see what the children do. These are the children running from school, fetching the fireman, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. This is the tide coming into the bay, and these are the villagers shouting, hooray! As the whale and the snail travel safely away. Look, they've all saved him. There he is, back in the water. Back to the dock, and to the flock on the rock, who said, how time's flown, haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves, shooting stars in enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale. You see all those snails have hitched a lift and they're going on an adventure now. I wonder where they'll go to. And you know, children, if you look on the internet, if you get your parents to help you, you can see some rescues of whales that have been beached. You have a look. It's amazing how clever people are and how they can get whales back into the sea. So see if you can find a clip of a whale being saved. See you next time. Bye-bye.